Got the engine broke loose and about halfway out. Let's see, we got all the hydraulic connections. I left the pumps hooked up and then pulled them off the back of the torque converter housing, and they're sitting down there still. U-joint came apart, and we're lifting. Well, we got the engine out, pretty uneventful, and see we still got the pumps in there, some hose ends. I got everything capped off. Luckily the U-joint stayed together. Got to get a few new hoses. I'm going to make sure I replace all the questionable hoses in there, because I do not want to pull that back out if I don't have to. And the engine over here, the old D206. Looks pretty good. I'm going to try to power wash everything off before I put it back together. These rubber bushings inside behind this are trashed, so hopefully I can find some new ones of those. And I'm going to have to cover those up. Don't want any dirt getting in there. And hopefully we can get this off and swap out that flex plate, and we may see what's inside this torque converter. We'll see. This right here is your strainer for the transmission oil. The transmission oil and the torque converter oil are shared by a single reservoir. So we pulled the strainer out of the powershift transmission, and as you can see, it actually looks pretty clean in there. I'm real happy with what I'm seeing. And then there's the strainer down below. There's a little bit of stuff on there. We'll take a closer look once we're out from underneath the tractor. But we'll clean all that up and get it reinstalled. I still need to cap that return yet. I've got the other one capped. Need to have some hoses made. While I'm under here, I'm going to try to get any of the hoses replaced that are cracked or looking brittle. It's easier now by far than later. The filter out here in the light, we can see a little bit better. I see some chunks of dirt. I'm not seeing anything metallic or of concern. That's a relief. I did manage to get a new O-ring for this through Case IH. So I'll be replacing that because this is probably pretty brittle at this point. So we've got the filter cap all cleaned up. And the filter, we found some stuff in there, but it would look like chunks of grass and dirt. It wasn't anything metallic, or clutch material, so that's a good sign. Pretty happy with that. I'm gonna clean any of the remaining chunks out of this filter, and we'll get it put back together. And then don't forget, there's a little washer that needs to go back in. So as you can see in the book, in the transmission we have the strainer, the O-ring, there's that little spacer, and then the cap. Number 27 is the O-ring, which would be a IH285253R1. However, that supersedes to a case IH 69122 for a new O-ring. This old crusty one's going to come off. New one ready to go on. Of course, we'll lubricate it first with some petroleum jelly so it doesn't tear the O-ring, and then we'll get our washer back in place and we'll spin our cleaned strainer back on. Got the new O-ring on there. I'm going to take some extra goop and make sure it slides on really well. Don't want to pinch that O-ring, because once I get this back together, I really don't want to tear it back apart. Alright, now I gotta clean up this surface here for the strainer to go back in. Make sure none of this crusty stuff up here fell down in the hole. So we don't want that. That's probably what that stuff was on the strainer. Get it all cleaned up and ready to go back in. See if I can do this one-handed. Alright, so we got the filter, the strainer replaced. All tightened back up. I gotta cap that inlet and a couple other things. And now we gotta go chase parts. A few of the parts that we need to get ordered is there's rubber mounts behind these blocks right here, and they are completely disintegrated on both sides. Unfortunately, they are discontinued through Case IH, and no new old stock that I've been able to find so far. But it's a holiday weekend, so there's a few more places I'm going to try after the holidays, and maybe we'll find some. We also got to get this torque converter pulled apart, and a couple O-rings for the pump mounts ordered. Thanks for coming along on this little track loader adventure. Once we get some parts found and ordered, we'll come back and maybe do some reassembling. Stay tuned.